What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, with some great news. I found my tripod, which means I can move things around. I have two hands, and it doesn't shake. How exciting for you, the viewer. It's the little upgrades here at the channel that make it worth watching and all that. Before we get to this, please hit that like and subscribe button. I always announce this at the end of the video, but I got to do it at the beginning of the video before you guys tune out because we want to hit that 1,500 number. We're getting really close to 1,500 subscribers at this juncture, and that's just great. So just want to keep those going up. And of course, the more comments you leave and talk about this stuff, the more that YouTube shows this to new people, and we can get more folk enjoying fun comics and along with the ride for what's going on. I should also mention today I have a book out. It's called The Cosmic Warrior. It's on Amazon. It is a single issue comic, and I put the link in the description down below so you can check that out. If you like epic cosmic sci-fi sort of comics, hopefully you do. If you're watching a Crisis review, you will enjoy that. I'm trying to bring back classic style storytelling and the stuff that makes this great, which we'll dive into. This is the deluxe edition of Crisis on Infinite Earths right here, and it's a oversized hardcover. I don't actually have a regular size comic to compare it with right now, but I should have done that. Slightly bigger than an regular comic, so you get some bigger art. There is an absolute edition of this, and the absolute versions are like way taller than these. But the absolute version is currently out of print and commanding, I think, like $150 on eBay. And I was like, I don't know. I'll read it in this version. This is pretty cool as it is. It's a hardcover, and it's got a dust jacket with some like printed art on the inside that looks really awesome with this whole like scene of Crisis by itself, which I like. And this is where we get into the story. So the book contains not only the 12 issues of Crisis on Infinite Earths by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, spoiler alert on what happens here, but it also has a history of the DC universe at the end of it, which I'll get to, that they kind of tacked on the back. And it's a fun comic, and here we go. We get a nice introduction about how this changed the DC universe forever, and it really did. So George Perez's art in this is just so off the charts, so cool. I love all this like sci-fi cosmic stuff with the worlds and the opening of the issues, and look at how many panels he draws per page. It's like absurd. There's just an absurd look at this crowd scene. This must have taken forever to draw. And this is the type of stuff you just get throughout the entire issue. And it starts out with worlds collapsing, everybody kind of reacting to that, and where it kind of falls down as a story. If you aren't aware of all these DC characters and all the Charlton characters that DC bought, and all the Golden Age DC characters and all the other side characters that are thrown along with this, it's just a lot of reaction shots from a lot of different people, and it's great fan service, like on that level. So if you are a big DC buff, you'll be like, oh, there's that person and there's that person. But if you're not, and I'm honestly not, I mean, I know who a lot of these are now, just from reading over the years, but I'm not a huge DC buff. It kind of slows things down. But basically, the main crux of the story is there's this lady, Lila, and she is the Harbinger, and she's working for a dude called the Monitor, who's like this like godlike being who's been just making sure the universe stays intact for years. And they're finding out that all these universes are getting destroyed, and they're building preparations to make the universe survive, basically. And we get a lot of reactions and stuff like that, and it's kind of a mystery as to what's happening and who the bad guy is and what's going on at this point. And these are pretty long issues, beautiful art, as I said, and actually the Monitor just gets revealed at the end of the first issue. So, I mean, it's a real slow roll into actually what's going on. We get all this stuff from the past, we get stuff from the future with the Legion of Superheroes, Batman and Joker are involved, the Flash is falling out through time, just a bunch of crazy stuff that seems haphazard. And there she is as Harbinger. I like this character and would like to see more of her. But they're the main characters of it. People come in and go, and of course there's a lot of Superman elements to it also. But most of them are just kind of reacting. Batman just reacts throughout the whole book. He can't really do much on the cosmic scale. You know, I mean, they had to put him in there because he's Batman, but that's it. So the Monitor is making these big monolith things, which is, this is cool. There's almost like a Kirby-esque machine right here that George Perez did. And these machines are spread throughout different worlds, and they're basically meant to stave off evil matter and stuff like that. And I guess Lila is being programmed to kill the Monitor at the end of the day. And we don't know why. We don't know what's happening. Brainiac shows up. Everybody shows up. There's just like cameos from so many different... There's Sergeant Rock. All sorts of different characters throughout all of this. Like I said, I mean, it's just like a cherry pick of DC fan service through here. And the reason I read this was because of Supergirl. And this actually plays a big role in Supergirl's life right here. Right now we've got the look of Supergirl that ended in the Daring Adventures of Supergirl. She had an original costume in that series that they changed halfway through, where the S kind of blends into the cape up here. And she gets this like super 80s headband and mullet hair. It's very 80s. And you see the mullet hair a little better here. Yeah, she's a rocker. Is she Supergirl or is she a guitarist from Styx? I don't know. But she's hanging with Batgirl here. And that's the reason I read this book, is because if you've followed the channel, I'm going through almost all of the events of Supergirl in general. And that is, that's kind of what we've been doing for the most part. And this is a very important deal for the Supergirl that came pre-Crisis. And after reading Daring Adventures of Supergirl, which is pre-Crisis, I'm actually finally more interested in the pre-Crisis DC universe. A lot changed at this point, and they really changed the tone of the universe to be a lot more serious, a lot more cohesive, to compete with Marvel, because they were all over the map, and they were a lot campier than Marvel at the time. And they really were influenced big by that Adam West Batman show, and it just all ended up like that, which I don't think is a bad thing. As I get older, I'm kind of happy to read the cartoony style comics a lot more. But all the superheroes get assembled. I mean, you just see this. I mean, poor George Perez is just crowd shot after crowd shot. I mean, imagine how long it takes to draw this many characters. It's insane. And while, you know, it's cool to look at, it hurts the story because there's just so many scenes that just are to show characters and just to remind you that they're there. And so it does slow down the story quite a bit. I don't see a way around it for something like this because they're meant to show the entire DC universe and all that. But all the heroes get together and they're all going to try to stop what's going on. And this is the big reveal here where there's an anti-Monitor in a negative universe of antimatter, because the Flash goes into there and he's got a psycho pirate manipulating people on his behalf, and the Flash kind of finds all this out. And this is issue 5. So we get into issue 5, and that's when we finally find out what's going on and why. Like I said, it's a really slow roll, but honestly, it's really well done too. The just the level of mystery and intrigue, the peeling back the onion, really great job by Marv Wolfman on that. And of course, all the cool details of all the universes is very, you know, almost autistic. It's good. So there you go. And the Monitor gets killed, and then the heroes have to figure this out. And it turns out the Monitor set this into motion so that his energy from his life force would actually save the universes in some ways. And boom, here we go. But the crisis is still going on. And so this keeps happening. So there's a plan, the anti-Monitor gets foiled, but the crisis keeps going on. And that's going to be every issue from this point forward has that plot point. And so it gets a little bit redundant and a little bit repetitive. It's tough to keep this going for 12 issues. This is an epic cover, which is like a iconic piece of DC art right here. Beautiful, well done. Very sad to lose Supergirl here, but that's what they were trying to do with this. They were trying to simplify a lot of what was going on, make sure everybody's in the same continuity. They wanted to get rid of the Super family because there's Krypto, the Super Dog, running around, and Superboy running around, and so many Kryptonians that it's just silly. And they wanted to just pare that back to just Superman, so he's like a lonely figure from a lost world of Krypton again. Sort of something for people to experience. And you get old Superman in this, and he's meant to represent the Golden Age Superman, and this is the current Superman. And he's just from a different universe. He's married to Lois. This guy's not, and so it's a real reset of the character to allow people to get in on a ground floor. Now, the Harbinger gal explains everything that was going on to all the heroes at this point after she killed the Monitor, and beautiful cosmic scenes again during these explanations. The colors faded to kind of show that it's in the past and that it's an explanation. And this is really where we really learn what's going on all the way around, and we get it finally. And all the heroes descend on sort of this negative universe, and they start to fight the Anti-Monitor. Some of these issues are longer than others. Most of them are in the 25-page range, but like there's a couple, like I think the first issue, this issue, and then the last issue are like 40-something pages. And this one, Supergirl dies. Spoiler. And that's why I read the book, because I wanted to see how Supergirl died in that and like what happened later on through the sort of mythos of that character. And after that, it just escalates and escalates. So the Anti-Monitor has returned. He's got the Flash kidnapped. The Flash kind of escapes. Barry Allen dies now for the big, scary reveal. And the Spectre is gets involved with this stuff because he's fed up with all this. All right. Oh, gosh. It keeps going. All the villains kind of realize at this point that, we can take over all the Earths if we just band together. And so that now it becomes like another side story in this, as all the villains kind of take over different Earths and then try to fight everybody. And of course they betray each other. They can't even work together. That's how villains works. Lex Luthor and Brainiac are kind of the main deals of this. And there's in this issue, there is a side storyline on the bottom here, which I think this one is best. Which issue is this? 8, I think 10. We're already in 10. All right. I think this is best read by itself, and then this is best read by itself. Reading one page at a time doesn't work out quite as well. But this is a cool little strip right here. I love the little like pencil art that's done with it. It's a nice contrast to the story. Of course, they all fight the Anti-Monitor again, and they feel like they win again, and it feels like everything shatters and everything is over again. This happens like every issue in this. I can only imagine reading this month after month. It would feel a little less repetitive, I feel like. More beautiful cosmic entries. Everybody has kind of resettled into this world, and everybody's like, oh. But what happens is all the Golden Age characters now don't have a life, and they're like, wait, I don't even exist in this world. This is terrible. And then we find out that the Earth's really been sucked into this like anti-universe, and they all kind of like got lulled into a false sense of security to build us up for the last final crisis until the next crisis. All right, and we're all in this world now. They're using all their energy to push the Earth out of this negative universe. And there's these shadow people who work for the Monitor, or Anti-Monitor, which gets all the heroes involved in fighting these, and lots of just different panels showing all the heroes again. Just the layouts. Look at how many panels there are per page again, and like look at all the crowd scenes over and over again. And this is just a chore to draw. It's amazing that he lasted 12 issues with this. This is an incredible amount of work. George Perez should get like a medal for doing this. And it's beautiful art too. His women are beautiful. His men are studly, and yet not overly 90s muscular or anything like that. Good stuff. And eventually what happens is they push everybody out, but the Supermans stay in. And Golden Age Superman dies fighting the Monitor in his Anti-Monitor in his universe. Superboy comes with him, and they save the universe. And everybody else lives happily ever after in this newly formed universe going forward. And the only person who remembers is the Psycho Pirate, who is now in a mental institution. Bum, bum, bum. So it leaves it open for sequels and stuff like that. And that's what DC kind of milks every few years to kind of reset their universe now. Everything is just a copy of this at this point, which is a testament to this story and what it did for the universe. So as much as I kind of railed on the repetitiveness and some of the just like having to shoehorn characters in there, it actually worked really well as a story. I was satisfied with the ending, satisfied with everything that was happening. The stakes were high. The deaths felt permanent. It was a different era of comics where things actually seemed like they changed for once. And that kind of dissipated once we got back into like the 90s, where everything became retcon city over and over again. Now this is a retcon, but it was like the only one that existed at the time, and this is going to be the only one, and that's what made it special. When you do it every 5 years, it's not so special anymore. But it is special. We get some nice behind the scenes things. That's some nice notes and George Perez art, which I really liked looking at. Good stuff. Art is really fantastic. George Perez is phenomenal. I need to read more of his work. And then we get into the history of the DC Universe. Now, I just read Mark Waid's A History of the Marvel Universe, which was presented in this big, beautiful Treasury edition. And it was actually presented as a narrative of everything that's gone on. And while this does very similar with almost like a storybook style fashion, very cool art also, and goes back in time and talks about things, it doesn't quite have the narrative function that the Mark Waid History of the Marvel Universe has. Once it gets into the modern age, it just becomes this is this character, and this is this character, and this is this character, rather than still continuing with like, this is what happened over these characters and how they all kind of came together and their stories weaved. And so I don't think it was quite as well done as the Mark Waid one that was done for the Marvel Universe recently. But this is all they had in the 80s to kind of like define their universe. And this is, if you want to learn about every DC character that exists, the Atomic Knight, like I would have never known he existed. There you go. That's a good way to do it. And so it's a nice little add-on, tack on to this for the book, and it's also nice to scan all this pretty art. Look at the Wonder Woman there. Love it. Very nice. So that's that. This is the deluxe edition. I very much enjoy this edition. I recommend it over the trade paperback, and I probably recommend the absolute edition more so because the George Perez art really deserves like the big art treatment. But again, like while it's unaffordable, this is probably the way to go. It's slightly oversized compared to regular comics. Overall, because it was just repetitive and just because they had to shoehorn way too many characters into there that slowed things down, it was confusing. A lot of them did not have any purpose to the story for real other than to just show up and show they were a part of the DC universe. It holds up because the main story's good, the art's good, the whole personal issues with Superman, the whole personal issues with Golden Age Superman, those actually rang very true. But so I call it I would say this is probably an 8.5 out of 10 as an overall story. It's one of the better events out there, but at the end of the day, it suffers from a lot of the problems that these events often have. All right, what did you think about Crisis? I'm sure most of you have read this. Let me know down in the comments below, and we'll be back with some more reviews soon.